a few more to come join the session today. Today is Feel Good Friday. I don't know how good you feel today. It's a blizzard here. It is minus 23 Celsius, and it's going to be that way for the next couple of weeks. So I love using my machine to warm up, and I will be doing that before and after I go shovel excess amounts of snow today. Today, our focus is neck and shoulders. And I'm going to show you a couple of options that I've already reviewed that you can do in a seated position. But for those of you that haven't seen that, I wanted to do a session combining, regardless of your range of motion, there's going to be some basic stuff today, and there's going to be some advanced stuff that will, and I only say advanced because you have to get down on the ground. So it's not that the moves are hard, but you have to get up off the ground. And we know that's not always the easiest challenge, depending on your body type. For upper body as a woman, all of, lipedema, Durkheim's, whatever you might be dealing with aside, as a woman, we have bra straps, we have purses, we have children. We tend to carry our tension in our neck and our shoulders. And when we're stressed, even more so. So what happens when we start getting stimulation into these areas on a vibration platform, even in a mild fashion, the body, just like when we're doing standing positions, I kind of always say the body's very lazy. It's always looking for an easier avenue to get the job done. And what commonly happens when you start doing direct upper body positions, maybe a modified push-up or something, you resist and you fight this vibration that's going into that stressful area that we carry the tension in. And when we stress out and we resist and we fight it, we actually amplify the shaking of the head. So you want to make sure, and it takes a session or two, like anything, for your body to kind of get used to it. And okay, I know what we're doing, but we do have a tendency when we first start with our upper body positions to guard and protect and fight. So just try and relax, try and be aware. And if, without even realizing, it's kind of like crossing your legs, you're doing it without even knowing you're doing it. So if you're feeling like you're clenching your teeth and your neck and your throat are all tensed up, relax and make sure that you're breathing. That's another very big thing. So I'm going to walk over to the machine. Today we're going to start. I've got a couple of things with me today. Today I am using a Life Pro Waver. And as I always say in my sessions, depending on how long you have been, I have to adjust my camera here. Depending on how long you have been using your machine, you may need to, you may need to do less time. You may need to do a combination of seated and standing, modify for your body type, your fatigue levels, your pain. What I would like everyone, if you're starting with us for the first time, we're going to start with our feet close in the center of the machine, and I'd like you to bring your machine up to a mid or higher speed. So if you've got a machine with 50, 60 speeds, I want you in the 20 to 30 range. If you've got a machine with 100 speeds, I want you in the 50 to 70 range, let's see. If you're working with a high frequency machine, I want you at 12 to 14 hertz in that range. So we're going to get the machine going, and I'm going to keep mine slow for the visual on camera. Oops. Oh, and I hit the wrong button. There we go. My big toe. Okay. So what you want to do with this one is we're just, even as you're seated throughout the course of the day, a lot of times we're dealing with neck and shoulder tension. So, I wouldn't limit if you're sitting at your desk and you're typing emails, how many times are you allowed to do a stretch or something like that. So, adding vibration to that equation is just going to give you more effect. It's going to help with that lymph piece, that foundational piece we're always trying to do. And to start, we're going to put our hands on our knees. Now, depending on how you're feeling today and your own tolerance, if you want more intensity in the amount of movement, widen your feet up. So by placing your hands on your knees and locking your elbows, you'll feel a little bit of movement into the upper body. So that lymph's going to start moving, but just try and hold a good posture and maybe, I don't know, add some rolls, some shoulders. All you're doing is adding a little bit of stimulation while you do whatever you normally would have done. Okay. If you want more intensity and your range of motion or size allows you, lean over and put your elbows on your knees to get a little bit more action. You're going to feel this more directly in the shoulders, and my elbow is coming straight down on my knee. If you want a little less in the head, lean forward a bit and you'll feel it move to more the middle of the shoulder blades. If you lean yourself back a little bit more, you're going to feel it again primarily in the shoulders. Don't be afraid to move your head, roll your shoulders, whatever you would normally do if you're feeling tension. Again, we've got the bra, the purse, all those other things that just as a woman, we carry our tension there. So you could do this for a couple of minutes before you go work on the computer, before you go make dinner. The purpose of these feel good sessions is I do not want to put you into a box as to how long or how often. You know if you're overdoing it. And if you're noticing and you're starting new that you're having intermittent swelling or things aren't completely dissipating as the system starts declogging, all the more reason to use a machine more often in less time. So most of your machines are going to have a preset for 10 to 15 minutes. It doesn't mean that you can't do it for 10 to 15 minutes, but I recommend more frequent use throughout the course of the day, maybe 5-10 minutes if you've been doing it a little bit longer. Some other variations, a little bit of a stretch that I wanted to show you you could do while you're seated. You could do this in a chair in the car seat. You could do this sitting at your desk. Take your hands, and depending on your range of motion, I want you to just sort of hang on underneath the knees, and you're gonna like hang on with your hands, bring those knees together to keep your arms in place, and just sort of pull away. So it's almost like you're pulling the arms out of the socket, and you're gonna arch your back up like a cat, like there's somebody's got a string and you're a puppet, and they're arching you up. So I look like this is what I'm trying to do, and then we release. Just hang on to the legs. Okay. Again, and hold this for about 3 to 5 seconds and relax. If you're tender and it's too sensitive to hang on to the undersides of your legs for leverage, you could try sitting on your hands. Like for those of you that have sat on the platform on your hands, you're not going to get as much stimulation, but you will get a little bit. And all you're trying to do is, give that feeling like you're pulling your arms. Okay. So again, I'm just hooking them underneath if you can see what I'm doing here, I'm hooking them underneath my legs, closing my legs, and I'm just pulling away for 3 to 5 seconds. So that's just a good way to get into some tension in the shoulder blades. For those of you that do not have the range of motion, I am going to progress to the floor to do more. But if you can't join me on the ground, stay seated, laugh at my camera screw-ups, and just enjoy spending time with those of us that are here. You can just keep varying, your elbows on your hands. If you are super flexible and you can reach down a little bit further, while you're seated, you could lay down and even put your chest onto your legs, get a little bit more movement, put your hands on the plate. It really depends on how flexible you are and how big the girls are and things like that. But if it feels comfortable, you can go further, here or here. For those of you remaining seated. As we go down on the ground and start doing other things, if you're feeling fatigued and you want to get up off the ground, keep your chair handy. You can just continue shaking in a fashion seated on your chair. So next thing I'm going to move on to, as soon as I have a slurp of my coffee. Yes, I am a coffee addict. Okay. So upper body on the ground. I am not using a mat for my positions today. I might grab one when I get into some. I'm just looking around. Yes. Okay. So for some of these positions, and depending on the surface of your machine, you may want a mat. This is a yoga mat. It's a little bit on the thicker side, just to give you a little cushion. If you don't have something like this around the house, a thicker bath mat or a little rug, a towel, just something to cushion the surface of your machine when we get elbows and other body parts. If your floor is hard and it's hard to be on your knees for long periods, you may want to have a second one just for the knees while you're on the ground. If you're old school like me, I actually have some old Asics volleyball knee pads that I put on sometimes for sessions, and just pad up those knees if it's something that you normally struggle with when you are down on the ground. So the first thing we're going to do is just like when you're standing, the lesson is if we're further apart, we're shaking more. It's higher intensity. If the hands are closer, we're moving less. It's less intensity. I would prefer more speed and less distance in your hands. Everybody thinks that the wider we are, the more shake we're getting, but we're dealing with some sensitive areas, and for many of you, some deconditioned areas. So bring the hands closer, certainly no more than shoulder width apart. And I want you to just place your hands on the machine. If it's hard for you to kneel, but you can sit on the floor, you can also do this. Okay, I just want you to start feeling how it moves the upper body. And in this position where I don't have much body weight coming into the machine, I'm just reaching over it, it's very similar to when you're sitting in the chair as far as the amount of movement that you're going to feel or experience. So in this position where you're just getting minimal body weight into the machine, you'll probably be comfortable with your hands a little bit wider. And in this position, you can feel the shoulders moving, the shoulder blades. Maybe you want to lean to the side, wiggle around and experiment with what feels good to you. The next progression from here, and yes, you will be needing to get onto your knees at this point, is we're going to do a modified push-up. So a modified push-up is very much like a cat-cow position. You're on all fours, okay? I'm going to bring this sideways a bit more here. And I just want to change my camera angle a little bit. There. Now you can see me. Okay. So, the first variation is we're just on all fours. Now, with upper body, there's a bit of a trick in minimizing the amount of vibration going to the noodle. So you want to make sure that your shoulders are above your hands. If your head is above your hands and you're looking straight down, you'll get the most movement in your head. It's not harmful, but it does take some getting used to. So I want you to, at the hips, unbend and just push your body weight slightly forward till those shoulders are above the hands. The elbows are slightly bent, and in this position, you're going to feel, with more body weight, you're going to feel the movement a little bit deeper. And you could do, again, whatever you would normally do that feels good. You might want to do some shoulder rolls. Maybe you do want to do something that looks like a cat-cow. Do whatever you would normally do if you're doing these type of positions on the floor. If you want to target more the back of the arms, I've discussed this in other sessions, you want to, instead of your arms being like this, you're going to draw those elbows in up against the ribs. So we're going to draw those in up against the ribs, and you'll feel it more primarily on the back of those, the bat wings, if you will. That's another way to get into the upper body. And, really just, you don't have to do anything fancy. This isn't about fitness. If you did want to progress to fitness, it's going to look more like this. But as far as lymph and circulation, just basic contact, a little bit of body weight going in, 2 to 3 minutes is probably really all that you need. If you want to get a little bit more intense, again, the same variation I did seated in the chair. Instead of hands, I would recommend putting them out on your machine. Come out to the forearms. This one you can try like this. Again, I'm a little bit angled away from the machine, but I am getting a little bit of head movement here. With this one, your elbows, where they contact, drive the movement. And sometimes it's hard to get the elbows close to the center. Okay, so keep in mind that if your elbows are very wide, you're getting more movement. If they're closer together, you're getting less. So play with that and see what your tolerance is like. If you want a little deeper, progress to something more like this, okay? And you can tilt yourself forward a bit, backward. Play with your angles, play with your hand positions, and you'll feel it moving throughout different areas of your upper body. It feels different to everybody. So your tolerance, what speed feels best, your arm positioning, experiment. I'm never going to get it bang on right for everybody first time. I just want to show you some variations, and you're going to have to experiment and tweak what feels best for your personal situation. So again, anything like this, feel good, 1 to 2 minutes is really all that you need. A variation from here that I like to do to stretch my arms, and this is, if any of you do yoga or Pilates, it kind of feels natural just to come back and stretch those arms out. Okay. In this one, I like to kind of lean into the one side or lean into the other side just to get the stretch a little bit deeper. Again, just like when you're wider is more, closer is less. For this one, I don't like doing it top speed by any means. You'll find that mid to slightly higher frequency with your hands kind of straight out in front of you, probably the most comfortable. Okay, if you have more flexibility on this one, you may want to get on your knees, spread some distance, just allows your chest to get a little bit lower to the floor. Okay. Okay. Final variation. This is not for everyone. This is going to rattle your head. It's going to rattle your neck. I'm sitting on the floor in front of the machine. I'm keeping my pad on. I'm taking my elbows. Tilt your head just slightly forward. On this one, it's pretty likely you're not going to be able to get your elbows super close together, certainly no more than shoulder width apart. And I mean, depending on your head tolerance, it's not going to do any harm to the head, but maybe you're prone to headaches, or maybe you have neck tension or a dislodged disc or something. So if this position isn't for you, don't suck it up for a minute and just try it out, and you'll know within about 5-10 seconds whether you like it or not. I like to sort of sit with my head neutral, and I just sort of pinch my shoulder blades together and then arch, move them around, kind of do whatever you would normally do if you were doing something like this, okay? So that's just, it's not really a tricep dip, but it's just kind of leaning, and my back's kind of just resting on the edge of the machine, okay? For this one, I wouldn't recommend making it more intense unless you're athletic. You would do that by leaving your elbows on the machine, and I'm just lifting my glutes up off the ground. You want to make sure with this one you're holding good posture. You're not like slouching in the neck and the shoulders, and just hold yourself up. Okay, so that's another variation on that one that I wanted to show you. Upper body options are to a degree kind of endless. If you were to Google upper body stretches or upper body exercises, you'd find a bazillion on Google. I just wanted to show you a few seated and a few on the ground variations that you can experiment with. Upper body, from a feel-good perspective, throughout the course of the day as needed. If you're dealing with a lot of if a lot of your areas of congestion are upper body, perhaps you've been compromised by some surgery, or you're dealing with lymphedema post-treatment, and the swelling is prominently in the chest and the arms, you are going to get, your circulation and your lymphatic system is a whole body thing. So really anything you're doing in a standing or seated position, you're going to get some effects. But I do recommend, just getting some direct attention to these areas. Not everybody's working on strength or trying to improve strength in those areas, but just even some passive use with these types of feel-good exercises are going to start not only improving the lymph and the circulation, but you're probably going to find your range of motion, your strength, if you're dealing with shoulder and neck issues. There's a lot of tension that tends to release over time. And don't get frustrated. If you are dealing with lots of old lymph and it's been sitting stagnant for quite some time, it might take a little while for things to start loosening up and churning. And it's important with any time that you spend on the machine, just like any manual lymphatic massage or your massage guns, that you keep that hydration going. You make sure you're doing the other things you need to support that self-care. And then lastly, how often? So with upper body, you're getting down on the ground, it might be a little more cumbersome if your range isn't there, but you could do something like this a couple, 3 times a day, whenever symptoms present themselves, when you've got tension. Maybe you're going to do something else and you want to use it as a warm-up or a wind down. So all of those equate, again, to that cumulative better lymph, better circulation, better bones, all the other reasons you're using these machines. For upper body, for exercise, which we didn't really cover today, if you're pushing to fatigue and making the positions challenging, you would probably only do something like that once a day. But again, for the feel-good stuff, whether you're doing upper body, neck, shoulder type stuff like I was today, or other areas, let your body trigger you, when you feel those symptoms, when you feel sluggish, when the energy's not there, and anything like this for a couple to 3 minutes. You don't need to do every move. You'll probably, by the time you experiment a little bit and feel what's comfortable for what you're dealing with, you've probably got your 2 to 3 basic positions that you'll do on a regular basis. And if range of motion allows, getting down the ground, great. For those that lack the mobility seated in that chair, push through, be patient, you know, try progressing to those squats, sit to stands, whatever you can do to eventually join us down on the ground for some more upper body and massage sessions, because that range of motion, it's a gift. It takes some time to digress, but it also takes some time to read veins. So I appreciate you joining me for Feel Good Friday. I hope you're feeling better, and experiment with a few of these and leave me some feedback in the comments and let me know how things are going in your world. I wish you all a fantastic weekend. Kim, thank you for joining me as always. I feel like you're my little shadow. And for those of you that weren't able to join us for the live, these sessions will always be in the media library, accessible under Feel Good Fridays. So if you can't join us at the live time, feel free to just watch it anytime that you need. And if you're looking for some one-on-one support, some consultation from me, I do provide one-on-one consultations to the group. Please message me if you're looking for some one-on-one training, and I'll be happy to share some details with you. The machine again today, I'll post some details on what I was using today with a little bit of a discount, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great weekend.